freer if people like you were put in prison as retaliation for the collective crime of racism, anti-Semitism, misogyny, and homophobia. All you God botherers are war criminals and liars and charlatans. Atheism forever!
Don't threaten me, because I'll find dirt on you.
Stay strong, brother.
There is a danger in defining one's enemy by the mentally ill, and I think that man probably had his own issues. But that was actually a mild and almost charming example, because he wasn't offensive, he was just nuts, wasn't he? But if you do Google this, you will see video of people throwing excrement, water is mild, all sorts of things over people who are pro-life, who are Christian. There was a bishop just the other day in Brussels, women with their clothes off. One of them quite attractive, I have to say. But anyway, throwing water over him, and his reaction actually was to just hold some holy water and just to put his hands together. He didn't react badly or harshly. I wouldn't have been so nice. But this happens time and time again. The war on Christianity, but the war on life, the war on real marriage, the war on the unborn, the war on the elderly, the handicapped. Tanya Greenwich-Allen joins us every few weeks for Moral Maze, but is here to talk about this. I don't think war is too bellicose a term. I think it's quite realistic. There is a war going on.
There definitely is, and I think this is because we've seen the evolution of rampant secularism and just a disregard for human life in general, and we see that filtering into all aspects of society, especially with issues like abortion, like with the disabled, like with the elderly, and with marriage.
Now, let's deal with the marriage issue, because this is the one that requires particular sensitivity. I mean, I have no problem at all with the abortion issue. People say, well, I'm offended by what you say. I couldn't care less. You know, I mean, these are unborn children. Life begins at conception. That's a scientific analysis and definition, by the way, not a religious one. When it comes to marriage, though, you know, I've worked with people who are gay. Some of my closest friends are gay men in particular, who I've known for years. They've been so good to me over the years. To say to them, well, no, you must be protected under law, live together if you want, that's your business, not mine, but marriage is one man and one woman. That is hurtful to those people. I don't want to hurt them.
Well, I think in a country like Canada, where we are based on Judeo-Christian principles, where marriage is for one man and one woman, I don't think that's unreasonable to reserve that kind of union for one man and one woman. And I think in history we'll find that the family unit, which is the procreative family unit, and of course it takes one woman and one man to procreate, is the fundamental basic of society, and that's a fundamental unit. And once we start eroding at that, we will start to see the demise of society, which I think we're seeing.
For me, and again, I don't argue this from a religious point of view, marriage is a child-centered institution. We must have the procreative norm. It's two people being in love, it's a wonderful thing, and whatever your background, your sexuality, that's not the point. This is not an issue that demands equality. It's an issue that demands an openness for children. I understand that children can be adopted. I understand there are people who decide not to have children or who can't have children. But the norm is procreation. The species will continue. And I think something like civil union would have satisfied the vast majority of gay and the vast majority of straight people. Sadly, that's long gone. This debate is pretty much over. I think it'll be readdressed in 20 or 30 years' time, when I think some damage will have been done. And already we're seeing reports now about children raised particularly with gay women as couples, and it's quite worrying. But if you talk about the evidence that is found by objective analysis, you mustn't say that. Well, we can't even speak truth anymore. Now, let's talk about the abortion issue, because Canada has no abortion law. Fully funded abortion until the 9th month, or even beyond, I suppose.
Correct.
Most people who are sort of pro-choice, they would say passively pro-choice, they're not even aware of that. They think that's too much.
No, I mean, a woman could be delivering a 9-month-old unborn baby in one room in the hospital, and the next room over, they'll be terminating and killing a baby of the same age.
Yeah.
It's quite worrisome that, as a society, we can't even protect the most vulnerable, which are the unborn, the innocent. They've done nothing. They're not even breathing on their own yet. It's quite offensive, and to see this kind of wanton disregard for human life is really destructive toward the fabric of society. Again, we are protecting some lives and destroying others.
And the sort of lives we're protecting, it's very interesting that the vast majority now of the victims of abortion, certain categories: female, gender selection, black and brown, we're targeting inner cities in the United States and the third world, and handicap and disability. If they find there's a gene that exhibits a likelihood of, say, Down syndrome, I think a Down syndrome child the likely Down syndrome child in the womb has probably now less than a 10% chance of being born.
That's right. 9 out of every 10 babies who are diagnosed with Down syndrome in pregnancy are terminated, are killed. And again, we are discriminating on a class of citizens. If you have any kind of disability as a preborn baby, well, you should be killed, essentially.
It's incredible, isn't it? Because we say to everyone, discrimination against people who are handicapped is wrong. You know, you park in a handicapped parking spot, we're going to fine you. But the only reason for not allowing you to be born in the first place is because you've got a handicap. But that's so schizophrenic.
It is. And at the end of the day, we need to uphold the dignity of the person. And that's really the crux of the matter with the right to life arguments, is that really we respect the dignity of all persons, born, unborn, disabled, abled, elderly, young, all persons should be protected. Sure, as well.
Even the bald. You know, there is a war going on. There is a culture war. There is a Kulturkampf. There is a battle going on here. I don't think I'm being too dramatic by saying that. And the tactics used by the other side, the wrong side, are increasingly violent and intolerant.
They are. I've written about this, and it's violent, intolerant, and vulgar, where people are being physically assaulted, harassed, spat upon, shouted down, and unfortunately, some of the powers that be, the police, in certain circumstances, are even protecting these people and saying, okay, well, you need to move on. Your freedom of expression can't be exercised here.
You can't ask the police to actually police society. I mean, please. A pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.